This is Financing Philadelphia's Future. This has been, I think is it 20 or 21 now,
It's 20.
episodes of this. And very excited to have this latest episode. Things are changing a little bit, but let me do a brief introduction. So I am Vanessa Lowe. I'm your host of Financing Philadelphia's Future, which has been sponsored by the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition, longtime advocates of Philadelphia having a public bank. All right, let's move forward. It's a quick half-hour show, so we want to get as much in as we can. And today's highlight is we are going to meet 3 more of the potential board members of, this is the board of directors. There are 2 boards for the Philadelphia Finance Authority, but we're going to meet 3 more members. But before that, I want to turn it over to Peter to give us a little background, particularly on why the slide is different right now.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. Yes, the slide is different. We are no longer financing Philadelphia's future with Councilmember Derek Green, because although we thank Derek for all the work that he's done, and he's been part of this from the beginning. I think this is the first Financing Philadelphia's Future show that Derek has not been part of. But he did resign from City Council, and as such is no longer in the name of the show. But I have spoken with former Councilmember Green. He's still very enthusiastic about the project and about the show, and he will be participating in the audience along with the rest of us in future shows. He did send his apologies that he would not be able to be here with us today because of a scheduling conflict. Since he's running for mayor, he has a very active schedule right now. But he will be back, and we thank him for getting us this far, getting us to the point where we have legislation on the books for the establishment of the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to fairly quickly, because I know that again, the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition has been working on this for a long time. And part of, in response to, and we talked last time about the fact that the mayor is not moving forward on this legislation that has passed. So he has refused to name the board of directors. I think there's an action coming up. And so if somebody could talk to us about that action, give us the what, the why, the where, and the when. Susan.
Okay, thanks, Vanessa. Yes, October 7th, and Tim will throw up a slide. We have a rally coming up at City Hall with the intention of delivering a people's subpoena to our mayor, charging him with dereliction of duty in refusing to appoint the board of the Philadelphia Financial Authority. As everyone knows, that bill was passed into law by 15-1 majority, and the mayor has been stonewalling. We've written to him numerous times, invited him into conversation. Of course, he didn't give us the opportunity to discuss publicly with a veto. So we've done all the polite things of reaching out to him, and right now we're doing a public thing with this rally that will send a delegation of some of our prospective board members. These are some of the people who have been put forward to the mayor from City Council with the approval of council as board members of the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority. So that's where we'll start with this rally. We are sending a delegation with a people's subpoena, not a legal document, but a piece of political theater, to demand that he appear before a People's Economic Forum that we will host on November 17th. And basically listen to the needs of the people for a fair investment in our communities, and explain to us why he thinks he shouldn't be charged with violation of the law. So that's where we are, some political theater, and we're hoping that folks will turn out, and you can go, if somebody wants to put up our website, all the information is on our website.
All right, so somebody will put that in the link. Thanks so much, Susan.
Thanks.
Hope you get lots of folks to turn out for that.
Yeah, working on it.
I'm sorry, I missed that, Susan.
I said we're working on it.
There you go. There you go. Get the word out there. All right. So in light of this action and, the fact that the mayor sort of believes that he's stopping things, the fact is he's wrong, right, Peter? So the people who have been, whose names have been submitted are now part of a working group. Please explain that working group and how things are moving forward despite the mayor's inaction.
Thanks, Vanessa. As Susan pointed out, we've tried everything we can think of to have a discussion with Mayor Kenny about his reasoning and why he is not implementing the law that was passed by council. And this is another action along those lines. But the candidates for the board appointment are going forward as if the appointments have been made. So even though the mayor has not actually made the appointments, we have formed a working group, and that working group is proceeding to do the things that the board will be doing once it's appointed. As Deb Feigert's suggestion that we organize our thoughts around in the form of a white paper that would in essence give our suggestions to the board once it's appointed as to what it would do from the standpoint of adopting bylaws and developing programs and all the things that the group would be doing. And along those lines, we want to walk our talk and be true to our values. So one of those is to have free and open meetings and have them more frequently than has been required by the legislation. The legislation calls for an annual meeting. We held an initial meeting of the PPFA working group on July 6th. And at that meeting, we decided that annual was really not sufficient for accountability and transparency to the public, so that we thought that the financial authority should meet in public on a quarterly basis. So that meeting on July 6th was our first meeting. And since it's on a quarterly basis, we are due to have a meeting in October. The date that has been established has been October 28th, which is a Friday, from 11:30 to 12:30, so that people might be able to take part of a lunch hour to come and participate in that meeting. And I will put a link to that meeting in the chat. Meanwhile, we're continuing to spread the word and engage with our stakeholders and our partners, our prospective allies in the work of the financial authority. We have had some very productive conversations with the Philadelphia Energy Authority and the Philadelphia Green Capital Corporation, and with other parties about things that we might do working together. We have been invited to participate in a conference of the Philadelphia Association of Community Development Corporations, which is having a panel on mission-directed financing that we'll be participating in, and that is next Wednesday on October 5th. We're in the process of making a public comment to City Council at their sessions, and to find other avenues to engage with the public and stakeholders in moving the work of the financial authority forward.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. All right, with those starting things, with nice to have some work that's actually, you've got some dates and everything. So good for you all for moving forward. But now let's meet some of our potential board members who are already part of the working group. I'd like to start with Nicole, because Nicole has been a guest on Financing Philadelphia's Future in the past. So Nicole, just a brief introduction, and then maybe a little bit of your background and what you did what you talked about when you were with us, and then we'll go around and ask some questions after we get brief introductions from others.
Okay. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, everyone. I just want to say it's great to be back here again on Financing Philadelphia's Future. I think this is a really just important venue for thinking about the kind of financial plans that we need for the city, ones that are based on foundation of equity, fairness, et cetera. So I'll just give a quick hello, who I am. I'm a fair lending advocate. I live here in West Philadelphia. My background is 20 years as a banker, an advocate, and a federal regulator. So over that time, I've really sort of developed this niche kind of pocket of expertise in the areas of fair lending laws. There's a few of them out there. And then also more specifically in a body of data that's publicly available by virtue of those fair lending laws. So that's sort of really the pocket that I sit in, fair lending regulations and data that goes around that. I've been working, I should also add that I've just been working with the Public Banking Coalition for 2 years now. I'm really excited by a lot of the momentum, ideas, and just people coming together around this work. So glad to be here again. Looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And next, let's get a brief intro from Beth Finn, who's been with us for quite a while.
Hi, Vanessa. Good afternoon. I'm so delighted to be here with everybody. And so my name is Beth Finn. In my day job, I am a technologist. I started as a software engineer, and now I manage large projects for a healthcare information company here in Philadelphia. And at night, when I'm not doing my day job, I consider myself an activist with a passion for leaving the world a better place than where I found it. And most of my advocacy has been in two spaces. First is the brain tumor community. I am an 18-year brain tumor survivor, so I'm interested in the healthcare, potential healthcare implications that the public bank could have. And also I've been very active in gender equality. I started fighting for women and girls in STEM careers because I think they provide a pathway out of poverty for people. And a lot of girls don't consider a career in science or technology because they don't see women in science and technology. So I've been advocating for that for many years. And then in 2016, I was a co-founder of the Women's March on Philadelphia because of everything that happened in that election that I think we're all familiar with. And I saw the need for having an action here in Philadelphia so that people could participate, even if they couldn't get to Washington, D.C., where the main Women's March was, because of childcare issues or cost or whatever other reasons that particularly affect women. And so from there, I have served as the past president of Pennsylvania Now, the National Organization for Women, and I serve on the Pay Equity Committee of the Forum of Executive Women. And I also serve on the board of the Female Hebrew Benevolent Society, which is a group that provides small grants to Jewish women in need. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm happy to continue discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you, Beth. And finally, we have Deb Feigart. Deb, thanks for joining us again. I think you were here last month. Let's hear from you, and then we're going to kind of have a little discussion maybe between the board candidates.
We have
Thank
one
you,
more,
Vanessa.
by the way.
I'm happy to go, and then I will hand it over to Dina, who has joined us and is a
Wonderful.
board candidate, okay?
Okay.
Happy to be here with everyone, wonderful colleagues who I've been working with for several years in the Philadelphia Public Banking Coalition. As Vanessa said, I'm Deb Feigart, long I, Feigart, and I'm a PhD economist. And I have spent a career teaching and researching about economic inequality. I am so concerned about historic levels of economic inequality globally and in the United States and within the city of Philadelphia. So my teaching and research has primarily been in the area of the economics of discrimination, advocating for pay equity and living wages and better job quality and better benefits, and the right of workers to form unions and to voice problems with working conditions, and economic development issues like the economic impact of nonprofits such as a public bank or a public financial authority. So I'm happy to join this movement and be committed to the mission as stated in the legislation of the new authority. So I'll turn it over to Dina now. Welcome, Dina.
You're muted, Dina.
Sorry about that. You'd think 2 years in, that wouldn't happen anymore, but it does all the time. Anyway, it's nice to be here, everybody. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm Dina Schlossberg, and I am an attorney. I've been working in the space of community economic development and affordable housing for, pretty much my whole career. I'm the executive director of a statewide program called Regional Housing Legal Services. We have a strong presence, particularly in the city of Philadelphia, and work with dozens of nonprofit organizations on the financing and the development and the preservation and the advocacy of housing and community economic development issues, particularly for those who have been the most marginalized and the most inequality, as Deb Feigardt was saying. So I understand a lot about the financing systems for housing and community economic development and economic development in general, and banking and finance, because that's really where my space is. So I'm excited to have this opportunity to be a candidate and we have 15 minutes, so I won't bore you with some of the decisions that I think the city has made. Not just the city, but the way that we have structured how we look at financing and its role, and also housing as a commodity, and that is a sort of something else. I'm not just a right, but sort of why is the commodification of housing and real estate and communities. So with that, that's sort of the space that I'm in, and it's nice to be
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. Glad you could join us. All right. So it's 4:48. So we've got a little bit of time maybe for one round. And so how about this as a question for each of the four board candidates to cover? I understand that the working group will have working groups. So each of you are passionate about one of those issues that was in the legislation, whether it be housing or access to capital for African-American or Black and Brown entrepreneurs. So tell us what working group within the working group you'll be working on and what you'd like to promote in particular for the Philadelphia Financing Authority and the eventual bank.
I'm going last.
You're going last. Dina Schlossberg is called last. All right.
I'll go
or
first.
third, anyway, because I want to think
Go
about
for
this.
it, Beth.
I'm happy to go first. So Vanessa, this is a great question. And there are so many important areas that are called out in the legislation. I think there's 9 different areas. My focus, I intend to be on, as I mentioned, gender justice and also healthcare equity. I think that both of those are areas that Philadelphia Public Financial Authority can assist with. Gender justice, I think it's quite clear, just like we can help Black and Brown business owners, we can also help women or non-binary business owners to get the financing that they need. Those groups are traditionally underserved by our current banking system. And so the financial authority could really help them in that regard. And from a healthcare perspective, I think there's a lot of things we can look at. It's a tricky situation. It's a tricky space because, a lot of our hospitals and hospital systems are not for profit, although they do operate at quite a, not at a deficit for sure. And, but I think that, I don't think anybody would disagree that healthcare and health insurance in this country is broken. And there are so many people who need help with paying for their healthcare, especially if they have something catastrophic happen to them, some injury or disease that they can't handle. So I think that there is definitely room for the financial authority to help support programs that support those kinds of people.
Thank you, Beth. All right, so I heard gender justice and healthcare. Those are her priorities and her sub-working groups. Who's next?
I'll go,
Deb.
Vanessa.
Great.
I'm going to tap into my experience as the former president of 2 international economics associations and as a board member of NAVA Core Solutions, which is a nonprofit credit counseling company, to work on some possible initial best practices bylaws for the new authority. But I'm also, in terms of issue areas in the legislation, I am also passionate about public education. I've spent a career in the public sector as a public employee for the state of Michigan and for the state of New Jersey. And education is not affordable. It's just not affordable. And the Bank of North Dakota, the only public bank in the 50 states, has a very successful student loan program. So I'm interested in exploring educational affordability that is more than just a temporary pandemic band-aid of canceling student loan debt. And when I talk about students and educational affordability, I'm not just talking about 4-year quote unquote higher education. I'm talking about community college. I'm talking about the need for vocational training for a world that's going to be increasingly technological. And I'm talking about apprenticeships and partnering with some labor unions in the city of Philadelphia and with some vocational schools and with high schools to see if we can't help students afford apprenticeships or sustain themselves or their families, their households while undergoing apprenticeship training for jobs, increasingly technical jobs in the future. Thank you, Vanessa.
And can I add something real quick to what Deb was saying about education? I think not only can we help students, but I think that we can use funding from the public bank once we have it to help repair and upgrade and update our school buildings for our elementary and middle and high school students. You know, over 100 schools were closed in the first week of school this year because they didn't have air conditioning. And that is a very easily solvable problem if we apply our budget in the right way. And I think that's definitely something that the financial authority can help with.
All right, we've got
Vanessa,
6
can
minutes.
can I interject just for a minute? David Backer is another candidate for the board who's not with us. He's teaching a class right now, so he can't be with us for this discussion. But exactly what Beth was talking about is something that's very important to him. His field is education policy. And we've had some conversations with the Philadelphia Energy Authority and the Philadelphia Green Capital Corp about using the Inflation Reduction Act incentives in ways that can upgrade the school properties and make the environment for students more conducive to education.
Thank you for that reminder. Yes, we met David Backer last month. Hopefully he can join us again. Nicole, let's hear from you. What working group of the working group are you on?
I mean, what I want to talk about is just take a step back slightly to think about why we need this public bank. And I think it's sort of drawing on some of what Dina was saying in terms of we need a new way of thinking about the financial plan for the city. Because in truth, we are not a poor city, which is amazing. You go and you look at FDIC deposit market share data. Philadelphia is actually the 7th largest market nationwide in terms of deposit wealth. That's out of 393 different metropolitan areas. We are a very wealthy city for bankers. What we don't have is a good financial management plan, right? We've taken all of that wealth. We in Philadelphia have $67 billion as of June 30th, just sitting in cash in the banks, right? And we've handed that all over to large banks who are headquartered outside of the city, right? And we know what banks do with that. They hold on to 10% of it, and the rest of it they're investing to earn money. They're extending loans and they're earning money off of it, right? But guess what? Those banks are not investing that money back in our city. We have such a small amount that goes to support home ownership. Home lending data in this city is so small. Same is true for small business lending. That's even smaller. I think in 2020, it was like around 800 million, which sounds like a big nut, but it is so small when you think about what we have and what we need. So I think that that's the first thing to sort of take note of, right? Is that we don't have a good financial plan to keep our wealth at home and reinvest it locally. And then I think the second thing that really is a problem here in Philadelphia is what little investment in credit is going into the city is going predominantly to white people. And there's a real systemic racism issue. There's a redlining issue in Philadelphia. And no one is fully addressing the full sort of breadth of that issue. I don't think we've seen a city official, mayoral candidates or otherwise, who are really stepping up to the plate with a plan that addresses all of these issues, right? Bringing our deposit dollars home, combating redlining, standing up to the banks who redline in this community, and really making more effective use of the fair lending laws that are on the books to hold the banks who do business here accountable. It's sort of, it's basic business. So I think for me, the idea of having a public financial authority that really represents and comes out of the community of this city, I think that in and of itself has been the one sort of positive step forward that I've seen happen recently. And I think it's time for us to come together and really hold the mayor to account to continue doing this work that democracy has called for in the city.
Okay.
Everybody
Vanessa,
has to do it at least once.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now I'm unmuted. Hi,
Well, I used
everybody.
to
All
say
right,
when
Venus,
that happened, yeah, it was $1 in the till that I had to give money towards.
there you go. We've given our dollar. Dina,
Given it us.
tell us.
So, but I really did at the end of the year last year, make like an additional contribution, like of something that had to do with, how many Zoom calls I was on mute. But I am where Nicole is. I don't want to be so much in the weeds. This is an opportunity to flesh out new ways of doing business. And we don't have a lot of time, but I spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh doesn't have a public bank, but what it does have is it has investment, and it has financial institutions, it has leadership in its financial institutions, and it has foundations, and they collaborate on stuff. And they actually, so like, here's an example. We have ARPA dollars, American Rescue Plan dollars that we're trying to get the city, and we're trying to get the state to sort of allow for a loan pool fund so that these funds can be used as accelerator dollars to for housing preservation needs. Like, just leave it at that. And the city politicians don't want to do it. Why? Because Pittsburgh can do it and Philly can't organize itself to do it. Nobody will put money in. Nobody will be the first one to put money into a deal. Nobody will there's not a collaborative focus. And there's not like a new way of thinking about it, right? Everybody's and there is no financial institution or major foundation that rises to the table. So we need somebody to take that role. And I think this public bank can be that. I mean, it can't be everything to everybody, this public financial institution, but it can organize financials differently, and it can bring people together and say, there's a different way of doing this rather than the way we've been doing it. So that would be one of my focuses. And then the other one would just be we got to come up with everything you've said about, the segregation in our city is extraordinary, but housing products that will better serve people, and that won't, if you do a bond deal in Philly, if you do a new markets deal, it's $1 million loss in fees. If it's a bond deal, it's about 500,000 loss in fees. There should be a better way of being able to capture some of that money. So.
Thank you, Dina. And that's the thing. It's a quick half hour. We're about up. Peter, do you have any closing words?
I'd like to just point out the breadth of expertise and passion that we have among these and our other candidates for the Philadelphia Public Bank Financial Authority, and to also let people who are listening or watching this know that these subgroups and the working groups are not limited to the candidates. We are truly an inclusive organization. We want everybody's ideas about programs, about very specific things that might be done, about identifying where the gaps are, ideas about how to fill those gaps, and credit and financial products throughout the city. So we welcome everybody to participate in this conversation.
Thank you for attending.
so
We will
much.
see you next month. Be in touch if you have questions or ideas for guests, because we're going to continue having this program every month. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the
Thank
fall.
you, Vanessa. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.